So let me get started, at least give a short introduction. This Café is about Aleyant Pressero. The idea was to see, and I love this idea because it's not me who has to do it, so that's always good. But the idea was to see if you use something like Pressero, how quickly you can get up and running with something, because what I've seen, or what I hear when I talk to people, is that they seem to think that web to print is very difficult, and I'm sure it can be. But something like Pressero, in our experience, is you can actually set it up very quickly. So we'll see whether that is true. As we do this, just speak up and ask if there are things where you would like some more details, or you would like us to spend some more time on. Our aim is to do something that is 30 minutes or a little bit longer. We'll see whether we manage that as well. But of course, if you want to see things in more detail, just speak up and ask. I'm not going to present this because it's not PDF, it's not PDF Toolbox. So Helena is going to present this one. So I will turn it over to her.
Okay, so for the people who don't know Pressero yet, I'll give a short introduction first. Then I'll show a storefront that we created with 4-piece, and then we'll create a web shop. So first of all, Pressero is a web-to-print online storefront solution that can quickly and easily be customized. It will basically help you set up a web shop, and its focus is on the printing industry. So it has several good functionalities that are mainly focused on print. So here you can see a web shop that we created with 4-piece. You can create 2 types of web shops with Pressero: business-to-business sites and business-to-consumer sites. That means that you can create a public web shop that all of your customers can access and where they can place their orders. But when you work with a company and you always print their business cards and their letterheads, for example, and you would like to offer them a private web shop with their logo and with their templates on it, you can do that as well. And here you can see a few examples of storefronts that are created with Pressero. And they all have their own style, which also shows you how good you can personalize your storefronts. Then integration is also a really big part. Pressero is XML based, and you can basically combine any existing architecture you have within Pressero. And you also have the possibility to combine it with MIS systems, with ERP systems, and with your own existing workflow and so on. Here another slide.
Let me just add some. I'm not going to be quiet the entire time. That was to be expected. If you go back just a second to the last slide, so XML based means that there is, amongst other things, but there is a separate application that you can install on another computer. So you could have the website running, well, the website is always running in the cloud, but you can have a small application that runs somewhere else that can communicate with Pressero and can pull down XML and actual files. The web services part, just to say two words about that, there is a very extensive REST-based API for Pressero that allows you to do just about anything. So pulling down information, but also in the other direction, you can use the API to create information in Pressero as well, which would mean if you have a very extensive product database, for example, that is maintained somewhere else, you could use the API to automatically create the products on the Pressero web shop.
Thanks. So this is another slide about integration. Pressero is not the only product of Aleyant. You also have eDoc Builder, for example, which is an online design tool that allows you to create templates. And then there are other tools for automation and integration. As I also said before, personalization is also a really big part. Pressero goes really far into how you can personalize your web shop, and it's also really easy to use. So that brings us to the front end. Let me just... Okay. So this is a storefront that we created with 4Piece for Sushi Penguin, which is a fictive brand. This website is a business-to-business site, so it's a closed one and you need a login to enter it. There we go. So first of all, you have a banner here. Under the banner, you have an overview of all products from the web shop. And these products are actually divided into different categories. So here you can see all the categories, and in each category is one or multiple products. Let me show you a product. So here is a detailed page of a product. You first of all have an image of the products, and you can click to zoom. Then you have this. You can add a description underneath the image, and there's a pricing engine. The pricing engine contains different parameters. So first of all, quantity, and then other parameters you can add yourself. And as you can see here, the price is 75 euros, but when you change some of the parameters, the price will change as well. Then, as I said before, Pressero is not the only product of Aleyant. You also have eDoc Builder, where you can basically create templates, and you can also combine it with products in Pressero. For example, these business cards. Here you have the option to edit design. And then you will be navigated into an eDoc Builder plugin. So this is basically a template that we created in eDoc Builder, and this template has editable fields. When you hover over them, you can see which fields you can edit. And then you can change the values, images as well. And when you're done, you can add it to your shopping cart. So that's basically, in general, the front end of Pressero. So we'll now get started with the backend.
Helena,
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Do you need eDoc Builder to make the design changes, or other products allowing to do that?
Yeah, you do need eDoc Builder.
Okay.
Can you upload images or logos to the business card, for example?
Excuse me, can you repeat that, please?
Can you upload pictures or logos to the business card, for example?
Yeah, of course. In my example, so let me go back to the eDoc Builder here. You have two options for image uploads. So you can either choose, you can either give your customer the option to upload an image themselves, or you can give them the option to choose between predefined assets you inserted yourself. In my case, it's predefined images, but you can also give your customer the option to upload them themselves.
Yes.
Okay, let me go to the backend now. So this is what the backend of Pressero looks like. It's divided into 5 different categories. The first one is the order category, which is basically an overview of all orders from your different sites. You can filter through them. So you can filter by dates, by location, and so on. And here you have a line for each order, and you have all information of each order here. And I am an admin user, so I can also change the settings here. So for example, when I want to change the status to pre-press, I can do that as well. So that's it for orders. Next up is the preferences area. Here you will basically set all of your general settings for all of your different sites, but you can override them on site level. I won't cover all of these sections, but I will only cover the most important ones. For example, the pricing engines. So the pricing engine is what I showed here. This section, which basically calculates the price. There are 4 pricing engines which are used the most in Pressero. There are 2 easier ones and 2 more advanced ones. The first one is unit of measure, which is basically cost per unit. Then there's also price breaks. Let me show you an example of that. So here it's also based on quantity, but the higher the quantity, the lower the costs. And then there are 2 more advanced pricing engines, calculator and spreadsheets, and they both work with an Excel file, which allows you to go really far into creating a pricing engine, which is good for the printing industry because there are a lot of variables. Then also in the preferences area, you can also set your shipping methods, your payment methods, and so on. And you can then later link them to your product in Pressero. And you can also add admin users here as well.
This was a little bit confusing for me in the beginning when you start working with Pressero, because it seems to be a whole other area and it's nothing to do with your site. The idea, of course, is that things like payment and shipment methods, those contain, for example, a DHL account when we talk about shipment methods, or a PayPal account for payment. You only set those up, you have to only set them up once, you configure them once. And then the idea is that depending on the site you have afterwards, you simply use the ones that you've created in this general preferences area, which works very well. It's a little bit a matter of figuring out where the things are that you need in a site. But this is something, all the general preferences are something you go through only once, and then you just reuse them.
Exactly.
So I have a question. What is the most logical methodology? Is it first to create the front end or first the back end?
You have to create a storefront in the backend. So in the backend. But I'll show that right now. We'll start creating a web shop. So the next area is the sites area, where you can see all of your sites. And here you have the possibility to create a new site. And we'll do that as well. So you basically just click on new site on the new site button. And here you can add a name. Let me recreate the sushi penguin sites for this cafe. So I'll call it sushi penguin 2. Then I need to add an URL as well. This is a temporary domain we use for Pressero. You can, when you bought an URL yourself, you can also add this one as well. And here you also need to choose a site type. So as I said before, you can choose between business to business, business to consumer sites, or business to business sites. So closed and open. I will create a closed one for now.
Yeah, in reality, whether you use the names B2B and B2C were also a bit confusing to me. The difference is just that one is open for everyone, so anyone can go there and order a product. The other one is closed and you need a password and you need to log in before you do something. It should be meant, well, you should also know that if you create a B2C site, and correct me if I'm wrong, Helena, But if you create a B2C site, which is essentially an open site, you can still have a login area on there as well. So you could have a mixture of the two, a site that anyone can go to and order products, but where if it's an existing relationship, an existing customer, you can give them a username and password and allow them to log in. And having a login on an open site could have advantages because maybe you want to allow existing customers to pay afterwards, for example, based on invoice. But if you don't know the person, you want them to pay by credit card as soon as they order. Those things are possible.
Mm-hmm. So what I still need to insert here is some address information. There we go. And then I can click on Create Site. Then I will see, first of all, the settings tab of my site. What I'm going to insert here is, first of all, my logo and my icon. So let me do that first. So logo and icon. All the other settings I will leave on default for now. Next up is domains. I already created my domain when I created the site, so you can see this one here. I won't cover text for now, but I will cover shipping. So the shipping methods are created in the preferences area, and here you can enable them. So here you can see an overview of all of our shipping methods. And what I need to do here is simply click on the enable button. Same for payments. So this is an overview of the payment methods we created. And then I have to enable this here.
Sorry, Helena. Hi, I'm Andrea from Italy. And is a multi-language site or you have to define 2 or 3 languages? I don't know.
When you want to change your language, that's also in the settings area, and that can be done here. So in my case, so here you have all the different options.
Yeah.
So you can basically choose your own language. I will choose English for now.
In the bottom?
From Ireland, I can, here from Ireland, because then the price units will be euro. And when you click always use site culture, that language will be used for your site.
There is not the Italian language? No.
I think so.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but there is a difference. I think your original question was, can you have a multi-language site? So can you have multiple languages at the same time? The answer there, I think, is still no, right, Helena?
I'm not sure.
I don't think at the moment you can make a site that is both French and Dutch, for example, and that where the user can choose. What you would need to do still, as far as I know, is to copy the site once it exists and then translate into the second language.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's possible, but I don't think so.
It's something they were working on, but I don't think that that I've seen that implemented yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks.
So I think we're good for the settings here. So let me save that. There we go. When I click on visit site now, I will see my logo here and my icon here. As it is a business-to-business site, I still need a login. So let me create a user first. To create a user, you can go under user management to site users. And here I can add a user. So let me create one for myself.
So remark again, and this is again where the confusion sometimes is easy to get, because there is a lot of information in Pressero, but you have two sections where we talk about users. In the general preferences, you have admin users, and those are the ones that have access to the backend and can do things there. But then in this site area, you have access to the users of the site itself, and those are the people who can sign into the front end and then order stuff in there.
Yeah. So
if I'm a customer and I want to add users, do I need to pass through the administrator, or can I do it myself?
you can do it yourself. You can create users here.
Okay.
Well, that depends what your question is, Micha, because I'm not sure. But you need.
I'm a customer.
administrative
I'm a business customer. Okay.
Hmm?
And I have my own business site hosted by the Penguin business. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if I want to add new users or disable a user, am I able as a customer Penguin to be an administrator and add or retract people, or do I need to pass through somebody else who's hosting the site?
That depends which permissions you have. So as an admin user, you can create admin users, other admin users, and you can set the permissions for that user. So when you want that user to be able to create new site users, you can do that, but that's up to you.
Okay, clear. Thanks.
Okay, so that's all the information I have to insert for my site users. Let me save this. And when I now go back to the site, I can log in. And I can see here it's empty. So let's first of all add a banner here. To add a banner, you need to go under Appearance on Widgets. So in Pressero, a banner is called a widget. And you basically drag and drop this here. And then a pop-up appears to add slides.
Before someone asks, it's also the only widget that is supported.
So you can basically choose between a drop down of images, of your images here, and choose the one you want to insert to your site. You can also link, place a link here. So when the customer clicks on the banner, it will be navigated to the page you link here. And you can also change some settings here, like transition types, transition speeds, pause and hover, and so on. Let me add another slide here as well. Yeah. So when I click on Save Widgets and refresh my sites, I can see the banner is placed here. And next up, we will perhaps create a product. To create a product, you have to go under Catalog and click on Products. Same here, click on Add New. And then you will see a settings window for your products. Let's create a banner here. So a roll-up banner, perhaps.
So all of the configuration that Helena is doing is really only filling out forms. And that's the good news, because it makes the whole process very easy. The bad news is that there are lots of forms that and lots of options on forms. So you have to figure out what corresponds to what. And I think the biggest challenge of setting up something like this quickly is not so much the software in this case, because that's easy. There are also links to the help, to the documentation pages on each of these pages and so on. So all of that is relatively easy. It is gathering all the information together that is probably going to take the biggest amount of time. If you really know what you want, and you have a good idea of what the products are, what all the properties are and so on, then setting them up is relatively straightforward. And you can also skip a lot of the properties and then enable them afterwards and build. For example, this banner that we just created, it's not really essential to what Pressero is doing. So you could skip that in the beginning and get things live and then keep going through it and improving the site, of course.
Yeah, I will leave all of the other settings here by default now. You can do no harm in that. I won't add a description now, but I will link a pricing engine here. So here you can choose between all of your pricing engines you created in the preferences area. What you need to do here is choose a site group and choose a pricing engine, and then click on Create Pair.
You haven't talked about site groups yet, but that's basically a collection of users, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I will also add an image here. So an image of my roll-up banner. And then I will save it. I will also place this product into a category. So let's make a category as well.
Sorry, Helena, about SEO information. Okay, yeah, I see now. Okay.
Yeah, SEO is also supported. So let's call this one banners. Roller banners, maybe. And I'll also add an image for this one. So then I have created a category and a product. And now I simply need to link this product to this category. And I can do that under catalog organization. Here you can see on the left an overview of all products. I only created one so far, so I'm only seeing one product here. And on the right, you can see an overview of all categories. And to link a product into a category, you have to select them both and click on Add to Roll-up Banners. And then I have to click on Save Changes. And when I now go back to my site and I refresh this, I will see that the product is added to my site. What we now also need to add is a navigation bar. So there's also an area called navigation. And here I can choose between 4 menus. The first one is located in the header. So when I were to add sections here, the menu will be placed here. And there are also 3 other menus. And when I change these, the menus will appear here in the footer. For now, we will create a menu in the header. I will add a home page here. So here in the left, you have all possible sections you can add to the header. And when you choose one, when you see one you want to add to your menu, you simply have to drag and drop them. So I'll add a home page. I'll add my products. Let me rename this one. include products, and perhaps also order history. And when I now click on save and refresh again, I will see the menu appear. When I would like to add another page containing some information about the history of Sushi Penguin, for example, I can also add a new page. That can be done under pages here. So when I click on add new, let me type history of Sushi Penguin.
This is a question we get regularly during demos and so on as well. People ask, well, how do I then integrate this into my existing website? And if you don't have a very big website at the moment, you could actually do the inverse and say, well, instead of the website that I have now, which has 4 or 5 static pages on it, let me build a website in Pressero that I can use to sell products. But the pages that you have in your current website, you could simply integrate into the Pressero website. So in fact, you build the whole website on top of the infrastructure you have in Pressero. It of course doesn't have the same capabilities and customizabilities as you would have in WordPress or Drupal or something like that. But for simple websites, it does allow you to build things that go far enough. If you have a contact page with a form, or you want to have a Google map somewhere or stuff like that, all of that can simply be put in static pages in here as well.
Yeah, and it's also really easy to create a page like this. You have the layout builder in Pressero. So when you click on this one, you can add text sections, image sections, or text plus image. And you simply need to drag and drop these ones as well. So for example, when I want to add this, I still simply need to drag and drop it. Then click on the pencil icon. Let me name this the founders, for example. Then click on save. And then I can also add images. This one, for example. And then another section. So there we go. It's not loaded. And when I click on save and save again, I created a page, but I still need to insert this page into my menu bar. So for this one, I have to go back to navigation. And here I have a section that's called content pages. No. Yeah. And here I can see all of my pages that I created. So when I drag and drop this one as well, change the name and click on save. Then I will see that this page is also added into my sites. And as you can see, adding a page is only a matter of a few minutes. Yeah, that's basically the biggest part in creating a web shop.
Can you make a contact form for our fantastic site as well?
Yeah. Let me do that in pages as well.
Something with penguins, perhaps.
So in the preferences area, let me show you that here. You have the possibility to create forms. We already have a contact form here. So let me use this one in my site. So when you create a page, same here, click on Add New, and let's name this one Contact Page. And then here you have a tab that's called Forms, and here you can link any created forms to your sites. So let me take the contact page, click on the arrow and on Save. And then I also have to link this contact page into my navigation bar by drag and dropping it again and clicking on Save again. And then there's also a contact page added to my site. So, are there any other things you'd like to see?
Maybe theme support?
Oh, right. So, there are a lot of skins options that come within Pressero. You can find them under Appearance and on Skins. And these are basically pre-made themes you can select here. So you have three kinds of themes: responsive, standard, and custom. So responsive themes are skins that will adjust their design based on the device viewing the page. And then you also have standard themes here, which are fixed width and will display the same regardless of device size. And then you also have the option to create custom themes when you want to insert your own custom HTML and CSS, for example. And when you find a skin you like, you can click the select button under the picture. I will stay with the theme that's selected here. But when you want to edit the colors and so on from your sites, it's also really easy to do. I'll show you that here. So in the Customize tab, you can see an overview of all sections that can be customized. But this way, it can sometimes be hard to see which element goes with which element on your live sites. And for this, there's a live palette editor. You can find a button for that here. And then you will be navigated to a new window. One second. Yeah. So on the right, you can see your storefronts, and on the left, you can see all of possible color adjustments. And when you want to change a section, you simply have to hover over a section and you will see which elements on your sites will be adjusted. And you can also navigate through your sites while you're adjusting the colors to see what it will change. So that's also really easy to change. Are there any other questions?
So I think this is the basic stuff. So any questions you have on how to do specific things, now would be a good time.
Hi guys, thanks Helena. Paul Bunyan from Domino in the UK here. I've got a kind of a list of questions really, but thanks for the presentation, and just a quick message to everybody in the rest of Europe. I hope you're all doing okay.
So far.
We do, thank you.
Especially those ones in Italy and Spain at the moment. Keep safe, guys. So the first questions really is kind of how does this compare to some of the competition like Catfish, Digital Storefront, or VPress, for example?
David.
It depends. I don't really know the products well enough to do a point-by-point comparison. I think what we like about it is that on the one hand, it's really easy to set up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you start going through, and we haven't gone through all the details of the engine. If you start going through what the possibilities are, you can also go pretty far. And the fact that you have eDoc Builder, which is built in if you want it, but also other things. For example, if you're a printer and you have certain products are printed by someone else, then there is a way to deal with that. If you're a printer and you want to build a website for someone else and you're going to print the jobs that come in, then you can do that as well. And that is something that you see throughout the product. I think they managed to make something that is very easy to set up, where most of the stuff is just configuring forms. But where you can go pretty far in all the details at the same time. If I want to sell pens and I don't want to customize them, I just want to sell the things, then I can do that. I can make a product where I don't require editing a layout, or I don't require uploading a PDF. I can just order stuff, and I can keep stock of what is ordered and have automatic stock tracking of things as well. So it does go pretty far.
Okay. I suppose then these kind of follow on from what you've just said there, and I think I saw at the beginning. Is it self-hosted or is it cloud only?
Cloud only.
Yeah.
It's a pure SaaS product.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have some form of disaster recovery set up in there for customers?
Yes, it is a SaaS platform, so all of that is taken care of by Aleyant.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's subscription, or do you pay it in full?
Subscription.
Subscription.
Well, and sorry, in the first year there's a setup fee plus subscription.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's fairly standard then. Okay. Yeah. What about connection to an MIS system?
Yes, depends on what connection you want to make. So there are two kinds of integrations that are possible. First of all, you saw pricing engines in there. And there is, in the pricing engines, what Helena explained is that there are some simple ones like based on the quantity or based on price breaks. There are two more complex ones where you have a spreadsheet. But in all four of those examples, the price calculation happens in Pressero itself. There is also an option to create an external pricing engine, which would basically allow you to integrate the price calculation with an MIS system, for example. Yeah, that doesn't come out of the box because every MIS system is different.
Sure.
But there is a way to integrate that part. And then next to that, there is either the XML export from Pressero, or there is the API to do an integration with in other ways. For example, I could set up a way to automatically create users in my Pressero site based on the users I have somewhere else in another system. Or you can take information from Pressero, from the jobs that are complete, and then feed it back into the MIS system, for example, with all the relevant details. Those things are all possible.
Okay. I suppose I was thinking very specifically about sort of tracking, just-in-time ordering, what stock levels, etc.
Yeah, you could do all those things. The API is really very, very complete. So everything you have in Pressero can be accessed. The question really turns down or boils into what do you want to do? And then we have to see whether that's possible or not.
Okay.
API documentation is public as well, if you want to take a look at that.
Yeah.
And we can send you the link where you have the root of the documentation.
Okay. Just two more, so I won't take up much more time. How many concurrent users? Or is it unlimited?
Unlimited.
Yeah, the price is based on, and I'm not on the commercial side, so
the price is based on there's a certain amount of space.
Yeah.
And in principle, you have you can build a number of business storefronts and consumer storefronts. So there are 3 different pillars in that perspective, but there is basically no limitation to the number of users.
Okay. And the final question, looking at it, was this designed initially for B2C or B2B? Because having sort of done some work in both, they are quite different. So I'm the background I'm coming from is sort of labels and packaging. So one company with one storefront that would be selling to their customers rather than the end users.
Both, actually.
Right.
And if you would make a B2C site and a B2B site, I still think they should have called them open and closed sites. But anyway, if you make the 2 in Pressero, you'll see that some of the options are different as well. Yeah. But for example, in a B2B environment, you have a way to set up approval cycles and stuff like that. So both have their own set of specific functionality that you can use. And we very often also, when we talk to people, we see a mix, because people tend to want to do both.
Yeah.
And what I said in the beginning is also something that is not readily apparent when you start looking at Pressero, is that, so for a website, I can create users and I can create user groups. And a user group can be either specific users that I've created, or it could be anonymous users, so the ones that come on the site and don't have a login. And I can customize a lot of the website based on those groups. So I could have navigation that includes certain pages that are only visible to particular users, or I can make different pricing engines for different users so that they have different pricing. I can have different shipment methods, different payment methods. So you can really mix the 2 paradigms as well.
Okay, that's. I think that's it. I was just making notes as I was going along. So thank you very much, and thank you everybody else for waiting for me to finish.
If I just add to David's bit, Paul, there's only actually 3 versions that we do for Pressero. So there's a standard, standalone, just out of the box. It's just going to work as a site. There's a premium version that allows us to connect with the workflow integration tool, which will basically go and collect all data and template information that's created on the site automatically. And then we have a dedicated server version, which is basically an unlimited, open to however many people you need to connect, and completely scalable. All 3 versions can have different options, all added to them depending on the number of B2B, B2C sites. So the whole thing is just completely flexible to basically grow as a web to print site needs to grow. That's the point. It can get too complicated sometimes trying to get these things configured to how people need to use them. So we just try and keep it simple, and then it's like, right guys, you know what, whoever needs to add to it or adjust it or configure it to how it needs to go, it's scalable in that sense.
Okay. Andy, do you charge a transaction fee, or is it just a sort of set subscription?
No, it's set subscription based on the license that you have, based on the version that you're running. So there's an initial setup fee, which it's not a lot actually. I mean, I can get you some numbers, but it's not a lot to actually set it up. Included in that is some training, and then basically you're on a monthly subscription. And that's it. It's very straightforward.
What happens if somebody, say, decides that, thank you very much, it's not working for me, I want to move my storefront to somewhere else? Is that locked into you guys, or is that data that they can transfer?
No, that's data that's all available to you. I mean, what sort of data do you need to transfer? I mean, it's going to be pricing engines and images and colors. At the end of the day, you can have a CSS which you can get out of it. The pricing engine is kind of embedded depending how you configure it via the API, or whether it's on the internal embedded system. But it's like anything, you know, it's you know, if you need to transfer the data out of it into something else, it's like any web to print system. When you do that, it can be quite painful, which is why people don't tend to switch them.
No, and that's to your benefit to sort of try and, you know, obviously lock people in, of course.
Yeah, there's nothing locked in about it. While you're paying the subscription, all the information's in there. So if you need to get it out, you can get it out. You know, we're never gonna you know, make things difficult for people if they need to come out of it. It's we're there to help and do what we do at the end of the day. So
good.
I think the difficulty is going to be that the way that the information is stored in Pressero is naturally not going to be the way that it's stored in any other system.
Yeah.
So you can try to get as much out as possible, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to convert it or transform it to what you need in the other place. So yeah, that's always going to remain a challenge.
There is ways of exporting a lot of it to CSV once you get down to the right sort of level, but of course those things are all going to link up and tag to other things depending on how it's been set up.
Sure.
So, you know, particularly if you're setting up the banner product, which Helena was, you know, going to start talking about, you know, you can put in there hemming tape costs, you can put eyelet costs, you can put outside welding costs, packaging costs. You know, once those things start tagging together, that is a complicated thing to try and export. So, you know, it's like anything, you know, it's there and designed to work how it is.
Can you also import, like when you're creating a lot of products, can you import from a CSV?
Yeah, there's a certain amount of import based on what you can do, yes. And pricing breaks and everything like that. But it's like anything. Once you get to a highly configured state of any bit of software, you know, initial imports are there to get data to start. You then, you know, need to start configuring it around to work how you need it to.
What is often easier in that sense is to set up there are two things you can duplicate in Pressero and save time that way. Is you can make a product and then duplicate that product and just modify the bits that are different. And you can set up a complete site, and if I'm not mistaken, you can duplicate the whole site, right? And so, of course, if you're making closed sites, it could be worthwhile to just set something up the way you want it, and then duplicate it and modify the branding for the other customer that you're creating this for. So both of those are possible. The advantage versus importing is that if I import a products are linked to a pricing engine, they're linked to shipment methods. So there are lots of links going back and forth in all these things, because you're talking about complicated objects. And that is not so easy to import. It is easy to just duplicate and then modify the bits that you want.
Okay. And for a solution for a printer, if a customer of his creates a business card or a folder, how is the output and where is it stored?
So if someone orders on the site, and whether they upload a PDF or for a business card, or they design a business card using eDoc Builder, the result is the same. You have, if you could show in Pressero, Helena, where the order section that we had in the beginning. In Pressero itself, you have all the orders that go through the system. And you could manually look at that, and I think manually download stuff from there and so on. But what usually would happen is that this workflow tool that we talked about is used to automatically download both the files that were ordered for each order, and you can decide which metadata you want to download as well. And there are even different formats of the metadata that you download. So basically, whenever a file, an order is complete, I can set up this workflow tool so that the PDF that belongs to that order is downloaded to a folder on my system, where it's picked up by Switch, for example, and then processed further. and all the metadata can be downloaded as an XML file that goes through the workflow as well, which gives you the PDF itself, and then it gives you the customer it's linked to, and the contact information of the customer, and the quantities, and all the other stuff that that Pressero knows. And that can just be handled, fed into production from that point on.
Okay, but you don't need a workflow to use this front end so that customers can build their own designs and cards.
No. You could, the whole thing can be used either linked to a workflow to do the production stuff, or this could just be a front end where you manually look at the order, download what you need to print for the customer, and then deal with it from that point on as well. It can be as small or as integrated as you want.
Okay, yeah. We are a reseller, and is there a demo login or demo tools
Yes,
to show?
we can get you that.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. That were my questions. Thank you.
Just if you could just send me a little email, and then or send it to info@4ps, it doesn't matter. But just send a small email, and I'll make sure you get the login information and so on.
Okay, I will do that.
Send it to david@4ps.com.
Okay.
I have a small specific question. Maybe I missed it during the demo. Where do you specify the currency for the?
That's part of the, what is it called in Pressero? There is a, where you change the language, Helena. What is that called again?
On site.
Called culture.
Culture, yes, thank you, culture. Thank you, Michiel. So there is something called culture, and the culture defines both the language of the site, but also the currency that is going to be used.
So that means no Swiss francs.
I would have to look.
Because there was, I haven't seen it when she did the demo.
Yeah, it's not always so obvious. I will check it out. There should be a way of doing that. We wouldn't want to discriminate against Switzerland.
Because it's a silly idea to hook the currency to a language.
Yeah.
As you see here, for English, you have like 2 dozens, and for Switzerland, just for one currency, we would have at least 4 languages. If not 5, because English is also very popular. Not speaking about Belgium.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. But I'll ask the question. So, any other questions from anyone? Don't be shy.
How long would it take to set up a shop? Just if a customer asks, okay, I'm interested to do this, how much time you think to, let's say that he has the basis with, I think, two business storefronts and 1 consumer storefront. How long would it take for him to build it?
There's no way to answer that. The question is, how many products do you want to add? How complex is the logic for pricing and so on? The biggest challenge that we often see when we talk to people is that you have to have all the information that you want in there. Yeah. Explaining the product to someone is a matter of, say, 2 days of training, and then you've seen everything, and you've probably already built some stuff. So it's not complex, but you need to fill the information in there. So it depends on how much information you want to put in there.
Okay. Well, I think it's a beautiful product, but one of the criticisms I heard from some customers I talked to, and I don't know if others have heard this too, is that, first of all, time is lacking. Well, now is a good time to do because everybody has loads of time on his hands. So that's the first thing. And very often they prefer to say, well, I want to have my own look and feel, and I want to have my own web shop. And I have a web developer outside, a third party. He will do everything for me.
Fine.
So I'm interested what the feedback is, if other people heard similar, or maybe we can develop a sales kind of a couple of sales arguments to say, no, this is a smarter and cheaper way and a quicker way to implement a web to print store.
Micha, first of all, if you want your own look and feel, you can have that. I mean, what Helena showed were the skins that are in the product, and those are, well, those are easy. You just select one and you can modify some colors, and that's it. But you can make custom themes, and they can be very different. Helena, do you have the one of the sites from that our Italian students made last year? The one with the wine, for example?
But I'm also interested to hear from the other participants,
yes,
what their feeling is, David.
Misha, yeah, I mean, I've used sort of a couple of different web to print storefronts, and they're all very similar. They're very template driven.
Okay.
It's one of the one that I've used probably the most was EFI's digital storefront, and it's quite locked down, or it was a couple of years ago, the last time I really did any work with it. But yeah, they're fairly standard, and this is quite normal, I think.
And even though they can look different, I mean, this is an example that was created by an Italian student who did an internship with us last year. It looks very different, but in the end, it is a web-to-print shop. So you're going to have products that you want to sell, and there is going to be some structure in it. And so, yes, it can look different, but from a structural point of view, you're very probably going to end up with something that is relatively similar. Okay, anybody else, or are we all ready for a drink?
Sorry, is there a list of websites where we can see what's the implementation, just as samples?
Yes, we have about 25 to 30 URLs. Yeah. We can send that to you in all kind of languages, in Spanish and English and Swedish, well, you name it. So there are about 30, we have about 25 samples of different websites.
Okay, thank you very much.
So
keep in mind that some of them are very ugly, but that's what the customer wanted.
That's you can't argue about taste.
No.
Just as an idea on cost, Paul, because obviously these things are all pricing different compared to whatever reseller's doing them. If you did an advanced Pressero website, the first year with setup is going to cost you about $9 grand. That includes the setup and obviously the running of doing that site. The second year is going to cost you about $6 grand. That takes into account the subscription, that takes into account support, that takes into account upgrades. There's no other cost on that. That's the level it starts at.
And is there a limit on the number of web storefronts for that, Andy?
There will be 3 B2B sites and 2 B2C sites, but you can then pay for extra sites if you want to on top of that. So it really depends on what plan you come under.
Yeah.
To add an additional I think to add additional B2C sites unlimited is about 180.
Euros?
That'd be pounds.
Pounds, okay.
For me and you.
Yeah.
But there's also a possibility to get an unlimited storefronts B2C, and that is £410.
Yeah.
Which again doesn't sound like an extortionate amount. And what would you say would be the average customer's number of storefronts?
I think, well, I've got one up to about 10.
Right. But B2B, I mean, what, one, maybe two?
There was one B2C site, and there was 10 B2B sites.
Oh, wow. So they're different. So that B2B had their different sites for their different customers.
Yeah, and that was the power of the eDoc builder that did that, basically, because it allowed them to template stuff easily.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain how good the eDoc builder is, but there's an InDesign plugin, so you do it basically all from your desktop package, wherever you are in the world, logged into your Adobe CC, and then it links to it links to your Pressero site through the cloud, and your templates all update automatically from that point.
So is there
and they're all editable as well.
So is there an additional cost for that eDoc builder, and what would that be?
The eDoc builder is included in that initial cost. We have had it in the past where we've sold eDoc builder on its own to be plugged into another web to storefront.
Okay.
So it's a standalone product, and it can be linked to other web to print systems, but it comes included in the standard Pressero one that we do.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're talking $9,000 a year initial in the first year, $6,000 afterwards to probably get a basic sort of customer up and running as a sort of toe in the water.
Yeah, and it's always good. I mean, it's sort of, if you take the price per month, if you then take the B2B sites, I mean, it's $485 a month. So you're looking at 3 B2B sites. You divide that 485 by 3. That's what you're going to charge per customer. That's the revenue you're expecting to get back to cover it. So it's quite easy to work out.
Some of my customers that I talk to in the UK and in Europe are some of them that are going from, say, flexo printing and dragging them kicking and screaming into the 21st century with digital pressing don't necessarily have their own pre-press department. So how do you go about kind of getting them up to speed?
Sorry, I missed it. Did you say they did have or didn't have?
They don't have.
Yeah, so basically that's where eDoc Builder's going to come into its own, because you don't need to run it via InDesign. You can run it standalone.
Right.
And it's hard. Again, it's hard from what Helena showed you, but you can have it whereby you've got custom image upload.
Yeah.
You can have your inbuilt library to select image to load.
Yeah.
And if you're doing the image upload, yes, we can link this up with Callus and Switch and give you XML reports back to pre-flight standards and levels to the standard of that image that's been uploaded. But you can also set the quality level in Pressero before you do that, to then warn a user that files and things they're uploading actually aren't going to be any good, or in most cases are going to be as good.
Okay.
So there's a lot of functionality in there. It's very hard to get across in an hour, but
of course,
kind of demonstrate that yes, you can get your web to print site running up in an hour.
And I think you've done that. I think you've proved that it can be an easy thing to do. And how long does it take? That depends on the skill levels of the people doing it as well.
It's not as daunting as what people think. I mean, I know web to print projects that have gone on with other vendors for nearly a year.
Yeah.
That's the bit we try and take away with Pressero. Yes, you might spend a year developing it, but you're not going to spend the year setting it up to actually work. It really does just sort of work when it comes out of the box. It's quite conclusive.
Okay. No, it looks fairly straightforward. So thank you.
Keep it simple.
Can I add one thing? I talked to 2 Dutch customers the other day about this, and a lot are only looking at it as a B2B site.
Yeah.
Because more and more they're large customers. They want to give this special facility to their large customer, and in this way they lock them into their printing capabilities. Otherwise, they may go somewhere else, and if you set up the B2B so quickly, that's a great tool.
Sticky customers, we used to call it.
Yeah. I call them always naughty customers.
Yeah, stay in the corner, stay home.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, that's I can't think of anything else. It was just yeah, those are the common sort of things that I've come across when I've set up web to print, and I can't think of anything else. That's thank you.
I've got a pretty open and honest price list, Paul. I can just send you that. It's as straightforward as it can be, to be fair. So, you know, send me that. I'll send you that, and then, you know, give me a shout if you've got any questions.
I will do. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I mean, Domino's. I don't know if you know much about Domino and what they do, but I don't know whether have you got customers that are in the labeling and packaging market?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that would be something worth sort of discussing further, I think, offline, because they are fairly. How do I put this? Old school.
Yeah.
Are you the Domino's who produce label printers?
We are, yes.
You are the OEM. Okay, I know you already for 25 years.
Okay, good. So
I know who we are.
Yeah,
I know who you are.
You know, it's a struggle sometimes to you know, get them to understand a simple PDF workflow. Not, you know, that's no criticism of them. It's just, you know, that's where they've come from. So doing something like this, I think you're absolutely right, is to put the onus back on their customers to supply the right file. So that's another question. Sorry. It's some sort of pre-flighting, for example, if you're uploading files.
So
David,
no,
Gallas.
not built in, not integrated into this. And there is a way in, if you use it, eDoc Builder, it can warn you when images are too low resolution when you upload them, for example. But there is no built-in pre-flight of the full PDF. You can have products where people can upload PDF files and so on. There is no pre-flight there. I can give you two answers for that. The politically correct one would be that, well, the vendor didn't decide to do it, so it hasn't been done yet. But I think in the second answer, and probably more closer to the truth, is that in many cases, the feeling is that it is better to do pre-flight afterwards anyway, to just take the order and let the customer order and send in the file and then sort out any problems that occur afterwards. Because if you, and that's something that we hear from many customers, if you build in something like pre-flight in the ordering process, then you make it more difficult for the customer to place the initial order, which means they might go away and go to a competitor who doesn't ask difficult questions about PDF, because it's a great PDF because I made it. So it's not integrated. It is something that you would have to take care of afterwards.
Okay, so the order would then therefore become something more like a placeholder.
A placeholder, or for those customers who know what they're doing, they would order and the files would be fine, but you would have to sort out the ones that don't know what they're doing and do some kind of pre-flight once the order has been accepted, and then communicate to the customer to make sure that you get files that will actually print. But the advantage is you have a locked-in order at that point.
Yeah.
And you can take it from there. While if you do pre-flight built in, the site might say the PDF is not good, and the customer might be offended and go away.
Yeah.
We will be doing some more of these cafe events, actually talking about label workflow as well, Paul, because it's something we've got quite a lot of experience with, and they are very different to conventional sheet-fed workflow.
Yeah, ours is all roll to roll at the moment. Yeah, but I did definitely come from a sheet-fed background.
Yeah, but I mean the amount of time people can spend on pre-flighting and fixing an artwork, you can have it printed on the label press.
Yeah, or
they've even opened the file up. So the challenges we found with doing label workflows with using Switch and Callus, it's a completely different thing altogether. But we will be doing some of the cafe events to demonstrate that, because we've got some live examples that are out there in the field working.
Okay, Dandy, I've just sent you my contact details.
Yeah,
Paul, can I ask you?
Actually, Paul, I bumped into Ian up at the packaging show, or was it Lee actually at the packaging show a few weeks ago?
Lee Metters, or
Yes, Lee.
yeah,
That was it. Yeah.
Paul, can I ask you a question? What is the interest for a printer manufacturer like yourself to, is this something you want to offer like a service? What's the interest in the web to print as a machine vendor?
Good question. I'll try and be brief. This is an email that I got just over an hour ago from my boss. One of my role is pre-sales in Domino's digital solutions program, and my background is 20 odd years in the cut sheet toner printer market for people like KM and Canon and Kodak, etc. And he said, I can't make this, can you jump on? And it's something that I've been trying to get Domino interested in, just purely because I think we need to do more in the workflow side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an obvious in.
Okay. Clear.
Cool.
Okay, clear.
Okay, any more questions? Once, twice.
Sold.
Yeah, so thank you very much for all of that.
Okay, thank you.
Meanwhile,
Thanks.
stay healthy, stay good, and we'll see you again.
Stay
at the
healthy.
Café.
And stay inside.
Yes.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.